There is good news as well here in England, well, across the whole of the UK actually. The case numbers in the last few days are down 20%. And based on what we've seen in South Africa, let's hope that trend continues. And here's some more good news. Actually, the numbers in ICUs across the whole of the UK are the lowest since mid-October. Yes, the lowest since mid-October, way before the arrival of the latest variant, Omicron. And that actually, what that shows is that there are shorter stays in hospital, there are better treatments. All of these positives that real leaders, quality leaders, would use to set things in context. And actually, the ICU numbers are better also than the period from late July to late September. Do we hear this good news from anybody? Doesn't seem like it. Context and leadership is so important. And whilst every death is sad, the reality is that in the last 7 days, deaths have been less than in the previous week. Now, do you remember, I'll just cast your mind back to a year ago yesterday. Yes, the 27th of December, 2020. The headline on the front of the Daily Mail was 15 million jabs to freedom, and the Chancellor writing that we'd get our freedoms back and 2021 was going to be a great year. Well, here we are, a year later. We're 131 million jabs later. And yet we still almost have to be grateful that our Prime Minister and Tory MPs have said that actually in England we don't have to have certain restrictions. And already there's talk of a fourth jab, in other words a second booster for many, which we're seeing in, for example, Israel. They're well down the road of the fourth jab. Here's another stat for you. 390 million tests later. So we're approaching 400 million tests. You know, we're testing 1.5 million people a day. I think we're the biggest testing nation probably in the world, certainly in continental Europe. Is this a good use of taxpayers' money? 1.5 years, almost 2 years into this crisis? Do you think your money is being well spent? My concern is that there are so many people making so much money out of this. In a sense, if you just follow the money, then you can see what's going on. And there are many people who want this crisis, this testing, this jabbing, to go on for as long as possible. We've got pro-lockdown scientists who slightly disappointed with the Prime Minister deciding not to impose more restrictions. They're now looking to change their language so that we're not allowed to refer to restrictions according to them. No, they need to nudge our behaviour and our thinking and our language in a sort of rather communist, Stalinist type way. They're not restrictions on our freedoms. And let's remember, we are a freedom-loving, democratic, open, liberty-loving nation. No. These are protections. Yes, protections. Really? I think many of us feel we can protect ourselves. We don't need sage scientists' protections. Thank you very much. Call me to let me know whether you feel you need protecting, or do you want your freedoms to be given back and to ease up these restrictions. Particularly call me if you're in Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland and you are fuming at the restrictions on your freedoms. And it seems to me that the independent sage, which is basically sage on steroids, they're even more draconian in terms of their requests for more lockdowns. They're consistently wrong on requiring tougher measures. They would never have released us back in the summer. And it's interesting, isn't it, that some of these people, for example, on another TV channel just yesterday, there was someone who was introduced as a doctor from a company that you may have never heard of called Every Doctor Limited. And she was promoting these protections as opposed to restrictions and thinking that we needed to have more and more. But what did I say earlier about follow the money? Yes, guess what? She sells masks for a profit. So it's not surprising she wants to promote more protections. there's more good news that I think we need to focus on. And that is that the death rate, the age standardised mortality rate in 2021 in England will be almost bang on the average for the last 10 years. You don't hear that from the Prime Minister, the Health Secretary, or anybody else in government, do you? The deaths for 2021 will be less than the 20-year average, will be less than every single year between 2001 and 2009. Do you remember any lockdowns or restrictions in that period? I don't. We have to learn to live with COVID. And I think, actually, we've been doing that pretty well in recent months.